All right, in our previous sessions on Tantra psychology, we described the psyche, psychological being, in terms of the five senses, the five mental senses, manas, buddhi, ahankara, that is the cogitating faculty, the determinative faculty, and ego or I sense, the I maker, and then pure consciousness that animates all of that. In a very direct sense, creates it all and operates through it all. So, what we've described here, are a conglomeration of processes that, when they all work in concert, create an appearance of an identity, what we would call a person, what isn't called in Sanskrit jiva, an individual being. And what's noteworthy here is there's no single part of, or combination of parts of this that you can say is a enduring self, but rather this thing that we call a self is like that circle made by the flashlight in the dark that is composed of little actual points of light. So the light of consciousness shines through us, through these various functions, creating, as it were, a projection of a being that we think of as ourself. Now, if that being, that composite being, isn't the self, what is? Well, if you have to, if you're looking for an enduring self, then you have to go all the way back to pure consciousness. If we look at our chakra system again, go back to the Sahasrara, the 1,000-petaled lotus, the ocean of consciousness, and that is the only enduring part of all of this. And that in Sanskrit is also called Chit consciousness. And in a very real way, without meaning to sound like I'm making a bad joke, Chit happens. And it's a very concise and useful concept that life happens, awareness happens, and it's happening all the time. And this happening is creating all the phenomena that we experience. So the most enduring self is this pure consciousness that is creating an appearance of self that is not enduring. It lasts for, actually it's a moment-to-moment self. And this self is dragged from experience to experience by the five senses, like that have been compared to five horses drawing a chariot. And if the horses are untrained, undisciplined, then they just drag one's attention everywhere, willy-nilly. And in this modern world, there are many things that grab our attention. And you know what they are. I mean, there's the news from moment to moment, and there's posts on Facebook and other social media, then telephone calls and text messages, and the latest movies, and what is Tesla up to, and there's just so much going on in the world and around us in ways that professional you know, attention grabbers grab our attention, and so we're dragged around. Our attention is dragged around from object to object, and if we're not inclined to do something about that, that is to take control somewhat of those horses, then that's our whole lives will pass as being dragged through life. Okay. Now, some ways that our attention gets trained, typically in life, are just simple things like education. You know, being able to sit still for a certain period of time, say, work out a math problem, or study a concept in history, or understand grammar, or how better to use language in a sentence. Learning a musical instrument, excellent way to train attention. Learning a language, of course. So that sort of structured learning is one way that ordinary people train their attention to some extent. But the attention training that Tantra offers or requires, if you really want to go through the whole process, has to be deeper than that, more comprehensive than that. And it's a good start, you know, that kind of education that helps one learn to start to direct one's attention at will is an excellent start. But that ability to direct attention at will, to say, to think this thought exclusively because I choose to for an extended period of time, or to create this mental image, this visualization intentionally, and to hold that visualization or work through that visualization consistently, that requires deeper, more concentrated training. Now, how does that happen? Well, typically in the Tantric tradition, it happens through a combination of things. And I'm going to only talk about half of that combination, which is meditation. Now, meditation in the Tantric tradition is a somewhat ascetic practice. Now, I define asceticism as any practice that shuts down or conditions the disciplines, the functioning of the senses. And in meditation, the external senses get greatly quieted because you're going to sit still and you're going to pay attention to something. We'll talk about that something in a moment. So that's the essence of meditation. That's the essence of yoga. Patanjali yoga is you have an object of meditation and you choose to hold your mind or rest your mind on that object for an extended period of time. Now, why would you do that? Well, just like when you pay attention to a subject that you're learning, the more you're able to hold your attention there for an extended period of time, the more information you get, the deeper you go into your understanding and experience of the thing. You can hold a flower in your hand. I don't have a flower to show you, but if I did, you hold a rose, let's say, in your hand, and you really look at it, you begin to see things in the rose that you hadn't seen before. Of course, the smell, if it's a good fragrant rose, that comes out when you hold it close. And you see the shapes and the colors and the gradations of color and so on. So extended attention brings more information goes deeper, takes you deeper into whatever it is you're paying attention to. All right, which brings us to the object of meditation. In Tantra, the object of meditation typically is the form of a deity. Now, I've talked about deities before. Are deities real? Yes, they're real. They're real in the same sense, or in a deeper sense than we are real. But you don't have to believe in a deity to practice this meditation. And belief isn't a terribly important part of Tantra anyway. It's like a science experiment, you know. If you do the experiment, if you go through the steps, if you do what you're told, you're going to get the deeper experience, and that deeper experience is going to teach you then about what it means. So, in another session, we'll need to talk about the deity and how one directs attention toward that.